All right, I'm here today with Mormo Zine. Or do you prefer to go just by Mormo or Mormo Zine?
Mormo Zine, I wish I would have put that in my little blurb, Mormo Zine, so people can find me on YouTube. But yeah, Mormo Zine would be great.
All right, so Mormo is a streamer that I've been watching. I would say maybe around well, within the last year or so, I've been watching him, and it seems like he does a lot of movie reviews, things like that. He's currently the character Mormo is a horror host. That's what he's currently dressed as.
Definitely. Next year will be 20 years as Mormo.
And for me, I'm just always curious about Mormo. Like, he doesn't often go into his background a lot, stuff like that, but I could tell from talking to him, he's been around the scene quite a bit, from everything from independent films, adult films, zines, artwork. So we're going to get into all that. So let's start from the beginning. Mormo, whereabouts are you from?
I was born in Tustin, California, just outside of Anaheim.
Okay, so that's sort of like a suburb of LA, I suppose, or
Yeah, LA to Elsinore is all a suburb of LA now in California. It's grown to such a disgusting amount. There's so many people there now. But Anaheim is definitely a suburb of Los Angeles, yes.
okay. And what was your family life like? Do you have any brothers or sisters or anything like that, or?
I have a stepsister. My parents divorced shortly after I was born. And then I moved to Michigan for a while. And then when I was about 7, I moved back. And then I had a stepsister when I would visit my dad.
Okay, so you went with your mother?
Yeah, my mom took me, yeah. And then when I was a kid, I would spend weekends and I think I spent a summer with my dad.
Okay, so exactly where did you and your mother move to again?
Michigan, just outside of Detroit in Dearborn.
Okay, so and do you have any memories of living in Michigan?
I do. I remember the school I went to. I remember like growing green beans in preschool or whatever, and I remember Montessori preschool, and I remember different things like lightning and seeing lightning for the first time and stuff like that.
Okay, so it sounds like your parents got divorced at an age where you don't even remember. So your earliest memories were probably in Michigan, and
Yeah,
you're going. How often did you see your father during that? Like every year, or like?
I never saw him until I was like 7 or 8 years old.
Oh, okay. And did that make things awkward for you when you did see him, or was he calling you a lot, or anything like that before that, or?
No, I remember my mom showing me a picture of him in a photo album, but when I lived in Michigan, but uh, I was never really concerned about having a dad or anything like that. So
Okay, so it sounds like at what point did you move back to LA? Around age 7, 8?
I moved to a town called Escondido, which is a suburb of San Diego. When I was 7 or 8, it was like an hour and a half trip to go visit my dad in Anaheim.
Okay, well, let me ask you, what was your school life like? How was going to school? I guess you started off in Michigan.
Yeah, my preschool years, and then I did first grade in California, and I did pretty well. I always had a little group of friends, and I tested gifted all throughout school, but then I never really like did anything with it. And
Okay.
I remember selling candy in school. I used to go to a discount store called Pick and Save, and I'd buy bulk candy, and then I'd break it all up into individual portions and sell it at school. And I used to make money that way.
When you moved back to California, was it how was school there? Did anything change?
The most awkward thing about that move is that our home team, the Detroit Tigers, played the San Diego Padres in the Super Bowl, or not the
Okay.
Super Bowl, the
World
World
Series?
Series, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'd see people wearing shirts that had a Padre swinging a tiger by its tail and all this, and so, like, it was kind of, we moved at a hostile time to be a Tiger fan, you know?
Were people talking shit to you at school about it?
I don't know, no.
It
It
wasn't
was,
like that.
no, I was just aware of it in the community and stuff. Like I say, seeing the T-shirts and stuff.
And at this point, you have a step sibling, but are you actually? Because sounds like you're kind of far away. At least what is that? A few hours, or an hour and a half, or an hour from
Yeah.
your father. Did you see him much when you went back to California at that point?
I'd visit him on weekends, and I spent a summer with him.
Oh, okay. So you would stay with him on the weekends.
Not every weekend, but certain weekends, you know.
Okay. And so basically, though, for all intents and purposes, you're like an only child growing up with a single mother.
Yeah, and we lived with with my grandparents on my mom's side off and on um, throughout
Okay,
my
so you kind of
childhood.
had like a nuclear like an extended nuclear family type deal going on with the grandparents, you and your mother. Anybody else?
No,
Just you guys?
yeah.
So, what was it like? Were you awkward? What did you do to spend your time? Did your family do a lot with you at all, or?
Yeah. Like I say, I pretty much always had friends growing up and just kept the same friends. And I remember playing like I always had the off brand of toy. So like when everybody had a Nintendo, I had an Atari 7800 and stuff like that, and then I had a TurboGrafx 16. So like I always had different stuff from everybody else. Most people all had the same stuff, but I always had like an alternate version, kind of, and so it made me popular with kids because it would be I would have stuff that was new to them, you know.
Yeah. Okay, so you're in San Diego and you're going through school. Did you have any relationships in school with uh like like a relationship, like you're going out with somebody?
Um, I don't think so. Not in school. Well, yeah, I guess kind of when I was in high school a little bit, but like when I was like a oh, what do you call that? The third year in high school.
Junior?
Yeah, when I was a junior and a senior, I was kind of dating a little bit.
Okay. Um,
I'm
nothing
an
serious.
I'm an asexual and have been my whole life, so I
So
I,
you're
have, I haven't been in very many relationships really.
okay. Did you discover that you're asexual?
When I was in high school,
How did that come about? Did you just is something that you just knew and you read about it somewhere and you knew that, oh, like bingo, that's me? Or
the way I remember it was there was this girl that we were kind of dating, and she wanted to get intimate and I just kind of spit it out that I'm asexual and not interested in sex or anything. And I'm still friends with her to this day. She doesn't live in this town, but we're still friends on Facebook.
You're in school, like everything's good. Like you got friends, everything's fine there. I guess you have an active social life. You are dating some
Yeah.
some ladies here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, is there any? I mean, it's just is there anything traumatic happening to you at all? Like, or like even like really awesome? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter either one. But what I'm saying is there anything that sticks out to you during those years that?
Well, I've had
Uh,
psychological problems for most of my life. I've been in therapy for almost all my life, and I was medicated when I was a kid, and I think that I took Prozac when I was a kid, and I think that might factor into why I became an asexual, actually, but
what age did they put you on that?
boy, that's really tough to say, but probably around puberty time, you know.
Okay, so and was that spearheaded by anything? Were you having issues, or did the school was just like Mormo just kind of awkward and he needs to be on something, or
I just I had a hard time cleaning up after myself, and that's a symptom of my illness that I eventually came down with. But and I just told my mom I needed someone to help me, you know.
yeah? And before you got to that point, were they acting like you were just lazy or something, and like maybe yelling at you all the time, or telling you to do this or that, and then they went to the medication, or they just go like right into the medication?
Teacher, like, I know teachers always said I was unorganized and stuff, and I saw this therapist when I was in middle school, I think, and we used to play games and stuff, and he would hypnotize me and like talk to me in hypnosis and stuff.
Yeah.
And then I had this other therapist, and um I think I can't even remember exactly why I was put on medication, but I remember being on Prozac when I was fairly young, like around puberty age, you know.
And how long do you think? You know, first of all, let me ask you. You don't mind talking about this stuff? I know I watched Mormo, and you were talking about it a little bit, but I don't know how much. You know, if you don't want to answer nothing, something, just let me know. You know, I don't know if I don't want to dig too hard into your
No,
stuff
I'm
here.
good. I'm an open book, you know. There's the origin of the name Mormo Zine is the only kind of touchy subject with me that I don't like to talk about, where I got the name.
Okay, no problem. So, how long were you on Prozac? Do you think? Because it sounds like it wasn't the right medication. So I'm because I've known people that have been on the wrong medication that I think fucked them up. You know,
Yeah,
they've been misdiagnosed, and I just wondered how long you were on that.
I can't remember. You know, when you're a kid, probably adults talk a lot about your health when you're not around, you know.
Yeah.
So so I probably don't know the full story, but like I remember I would take it, and then I would not, and then I'd want to quit taking it, or I would not take it, and then I'd get back on it, stuff like that. But I've never had good luck with antidepressants. And then when I became a man, I got put on antipsychotics, and that kind of helps me out a lot.
Okay, so you strike me as a pretty creative guy. You know, you're involved in a lot of different types of creative endeavors. When did that all start manifesting for you? Was it right up from the childhood or what?
I think so. Yeah, I remember drawing most of my life when I was a kid, and like taking drawings to church. I'm copying out of comic books and stuff, drawing, and I always liked to draw. And when I was a little kid, I always wanted to make movies, and I wanted to get in the movie business. And really, I was born in the right place, but kind of just couldn't get along with people or whatever, and never followed that path too closely, aside from like acting in some plays and stuff. But yeah, I always wanted to make movies, always loved to draw and do art and stuff. And I've always had a side hustle for most of my life and would make money on the side. So
You mentioned comic books. Were you a big comic book fan growing up?
yes and no. I know I never understood the X-Men. Like, I tried reading it and I thought the story was way too convoluted and couldn't understand it. I used to buy at Toys R Us, they would sell these like grab bags of comic books where you knew two of the comic books in the bag, but there was a couple comic books in the middle that were mysteries. And I'd buy those and read those. And I wouldn't call myself a huge fan, but I definitely did enjoy comic books. And like I said, I liked looking at pictures and then drawing them and stuff.
And when did you get into watching movies?
Always loved movies when I was a kid. When I was living just me and my mom in an apartment, we didn't have cable. So, but we had a Betamax player. And when VHS beat Beta, like all of the video rental stores sold all of their Beta tapes really cheap. And so we were one of the first people to have a home video collection. And after school or whenever, I would just watch these movies on Beta.
What kind of movie? Do you remember any titles?
I remember I had Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. I had Buckaroo Banzai. Those are the only ones I can remember.
Okay, and was there any particular genre of film that you were more into?
Well, I used to watch horror movies with my dad, and that was a drama when I was a kid because my mom would let me see R-rated movies, and my dad wanted to show me like Faces of Death and stuff. And so when I was just a little kid, and so my parents used to argue about that and stuff. But I learned to love horror movies watching them with my dad, and my grandpa on my mom's side also loved horror movies, and we'd watch them on TV and stuff and then rent the videos at my dad's house.
It seems like at some point you do become a pretty big horror fan. Do you think that has something to do with it being introduced by your dad and this lack of relationship you had?
Yeah, it's daddy issues for sure. That's the source of my obsession.
You're in high school. You've got access to a lot of movies. You're doing stuff like art-wise that you're selling, I guess. Who are you selling these things to?
I remember giving away drawings in high school, but like I sold candy, I sold fireworks. I used to cross the border into Tijuana when I was in elementary school and middle school, and I'd buy a strip of like 100 fireworks for $1, and then I'd break the strip down into individual fireworks and sell them for $1 a piece. And that was one of my side hustles in school. And then in high school, I started working really young, and I was a busboy in high school and had a car and stuff and made money. And
do you go to college or anything, or?
No, I never graduated high school. So
Okay, can I ask when did you drop out? What age?
18, I did my 4 years. I just didn't have enough credits to graduate because I skipped school a lot. And towards the end of my school career, I just hated school and intentionally failed. And
Were you skipping school to like party, or were you just staying at home by yourself, or you didn't want to be around people, or what was the deal there?
in high school, I would party I remember me and my friend when I was a freshman in high school in California, um, we would like walk all over town and go to the movies and go to the library, and just we would skip school a lot when I was a freshman and just had a lot of fun doing stuff. And somehow I always had money, and back then, like you said, with my side hustles and stuff, I had money to spend, and just going out to eat, going to the movies, going to the comic book store. We just went all over town.
You do your 4 years, you get out. What happens? What do you do?
Well, my last 2 years of high school, I was in Missouri. We moved to Branson, Missouri when in between my sophomore and junior year, and so I lived in Branson, Missouri in high school, and then I moved to the big city, Springfield, Missouri, when I got out of high school with some friends, and did a bunch of dead-end jobs, and then I moved in with my high school sweetheart, the one that I talked about being asexual to, and we lived together for a while, and I ended up having a nervous breakdown, and then I moved back to California to live with my grandparents.
At what age did you have the nervous breakdown?
Probably like 19.
Okay, that's
Or
very
20.
young to that's very young to have a nervous breakdown. And did something happen that spearheaded that, or was it just these issues of taking care of yourself had become so overwhelming?
The woman I lived with started hanging out with Satanists, and they may have dosed me with drugs. I don't know, but I ended up freaking the fuck out and acting like a total asshole. And
Do you mind like describing that night? Because I can't even imagine you freaking out. So I just wonder what a Mormo freakout's like. Because you're so laid back and chill. So
yeah, I just like I painted "Born Loser" on my door at the house we were renting, and I just remember. Actually, I don't remember it all that well.
like it's just like a blackout kind of thing happened, and
Probably,
the next thing you know,
yeah.
you're at your grandparents' house recovering.
Yeah.
Okay, so so you're like 19 or 20. You're living at your grandparents' house, and are you looking for a job, or are you just living there? Because I know my grandparents would be up my ass because they're old school. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, I worked at Toys R Us, I think.
oh, okay. You're just like a checkout guy or something?
Warehouse.
Warehouse?
Yeah, I worked in back.
Okay, and then how long were you in this situation for?
A couple years, or a year, or maybe a couple years, and then eventually I reconnected with some of my old friends from school, and ended up moving into San Diego proper. I was in Escondido with my grandparents, and then moved into an apartment in San Diego eventually.
And I guess you're just kind of like, you working at Toys R Us this whole time? Or are you taking different jobs at different times? Are you out of work at different times?
No, I've worked most of my life. I'm full-time side hustle now, but for most of my life I worked and had a job.
Okay. It was just like, was it like a dead end job? It wasn't fulfilling to you, or did you like it?
I liked it. I just like playing with the toys. You know, I would go out on the sales floor and push all the buttons and
Yeah.
turn the knobs and everything. It was a fun job.
At what age do you start to develop the Mormo persona? When did this start? 'Cause-
Um, I want to say it started in 2014, and that's when, or no, not 2014, 2004, and
Okay.
that's when I met my good bro Magic Matt, and we ended up starting a zine together called Mormo Zine, and I created the costume and makeup to when I was promoting punk rock concerts.
Okay. So was this like a? Let's go back a little bit, I guess. So you had been promoting punk rock concerts at this point. When did that start?
Around 2014, I had a job as an actor in a haunted house in Del Mar.
Or you mean 2004 or?
Yeah, 2004. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
Um, I had I had an acting job in a haunted house in Del Mar, and that's where I met my good bro Magic Matt, and he showed me the punk rock scene. I knew it from like movies and stuff about punk rock, but he was in a band, and I used to go to his shows and record with I'd record his shows onto cassette tape and stuff, um and and then like he taught me how to be a punk rock worker and stuff, and that's where I learned how to book concerts, um and then created the outfit and makeup. I just thought it would be more fun if I dressed up, you know.
Right. And
So
I know zines, especially with the Riot Girls, all that stuff has a place in the punk scene. So I'm guessing that's where you heard about zines.
no, I knew about zines in Missouri when I was in high school. When I was in high school, I had a hobby of mailing away for things. I would request things by mail and try and get a bunch of stuff in my mailbox. And I bought a copy of Fact Sheet 5, and that was just a big catalog of zines you could mail away for. And so when I was in high school, I was mailing away for zines and reading zines. And then when I moved back to San Diego, I learned how to make them at the San Diego Comic-Con.
Hmm.
I went to a panel about self-publishing, and that's where I learned how to publish a zine. And
Okay, so you're taking all this previous experience, you're going in, you got some punk rock promotion under your belt, and then you start your own zine, the Mormo zine, I believe it was titled. And what
yeah,
was that? What did that zine consist of? What was it about?
it was mostly punk rock. It was me and two partners, and we all contributed like show reviews and pictures from shows and like political stuff. And um, that was like when the war on terror was going, and at one point the zine was kind of a protest to that war.
Okay, and this is also when the horror host Mormo starts to become conjured up, right? Around the same time.
Yes and no. Like I said, I started to dress up and wear makeup when I would promote shows. And so I wasn't like recording myself or talking about horror movies or anything. I would just stand at the door and take money and check IDs and stuff, and in makeup with costume. So I guess I've never been a traditional horror host, and I've kind of done my own thing and tried to reinvent it a little bit. So I was playing a costumed character back then in 2004, but I wasn't strictly exactly what you would call a horror host, I guess.
So Fact Sheet 5 is a pretty underground publication. You know, for you to just be mailing off for stuff, I can't believe you would just like stumble across Fact Sheet 5, you know?
They had it at Country Mart, my local grocery store, when I was a kid. That's where I found it.
Oh, really? I didn't even... Go ahead.
And then I think I subscribed to it from there.
Okay, I didn't even know they were in stores at all. I used to read Fact Sheet 5 myself, as well as I had things, you know, reviewed in there. Did you have things, your magazine, reviewed in there?
I think they had went out of business by the time I finally self-published. I was in other review zines and eventually Zine World, and that's when I quit zines because of them. So
okay, and were you getting an online presence with your zine at that time as well? Or was it strictly publication?
Yeah, I think I did have on MySpace. I think I was talking about it on MySpace, and I used MySpace to like book bands for shows and stuff.
Okay, so how long did your zine run for? And how many issues?
I want to say it had 12 issues. And it probably quit. I quit maybe 9 years ago.
Okay, so this is something where you're just like semi, you know, every once in a while you put one out. I guess how many pages were these again?
I wish I had. Normally I have one right by me, but I just. Oh wait, here's one right here. Here's two of them.
Okay.
I got here. This was like the third issue, I think. It had a color issue, and it was just pocket size, and you can see it just had this many pages.
Okay.
They were just pocket size, and they had like maybe 20 or 30 pages somewhere in there.
Okay, cool. So at what point did your attention turn more to the internet? Because I know you're primarily on the internet now, it seems like, everything you do.
Yeah.
When did that become more of a focus for you?
When I eventually I had another nervous breakdown in San Diego and had to leave, and I was a pretty savage drug addict in San Diego and just had another nervous breakdown, and I moved back in with my mom and grandma in Eastern Oregon. And it was when I was living in Eastern Oregon, and I was running a used bookstore, and I needed to make extra money somehow. And I was just in this tiny town of like 10,000 people, and there wasn't very many opportunities. So I turned to the internet as a way to make money.
And what were you doing?
I've been doing YouTube since 2006, I think. And there was this website called Jokeroo, was the first one that I tried to make money on. And it seemed I never made any money, but like the bug bit me and I went down that rabbit hole of make money online. And I sold on eBay. So ever since the 90s, I've made money on eBay. And when I had that bookstore, I was selling books on eBay and making extra money that way.
You said you had a savage drug problem in San Diego.
Yeah.
Or at least you said user. I don't know if you had a problem. I don't know if you consider it a problem, but it does sound like it led to a second nervous breakdown. So
Yeah, it turned into a problem for sure.
right. So I was wondering if you don't mind, like what kind of drugs were you on at the time?
Lots of pot, some cocaine. I got hooked on meth, and I had a meth habit of like once a month I'd buy $50 worth of meth, smoke all of it over a couple days and really get fucked up, and then quit, and then wait a month and do it all over again. That's how my habit worked with meth. And then I did Jimson weed and acid and shrooms and all kinds of stuff.
You're just like testing out everything. So
Yeah, I've never done heroin, but I've done a lot of things.
well, when you were during this period, were you taking your medication as well for your issues, for your mental issues, or?
No, I was off of medication and not medicated until I had the breakdown, and then they put me on risperidone, which was an antipsychotic.
So you were probably that whole period, you know, in retrospect, probably you're self-medicating, basically. You know, you probably had some issues that were bothering you, I would imagine, and you were taking a lot of drugs, just trying to get your mind somewhere else. And
Well, me and all of my friends too. It was, I'm sure, definitely self-medicating, but it also
you
was
like to party.
rock and roll, you know.
Yeah. So were were you addicted to any of these? Because you mentioned meth. I know that's highly addictive.
I was
Uh,
addicted to meth, yeah.
so you had to like get out. You had to kick that somehow.
Yeah, when I moved to Oregon, I got into the NA and AA, and I ended up getting 6 years clean in Oregon.
Do you think those organizations helped?
They definitely did. I doubt I could have done it otherwise.
Okay. And now I know at one time you were working in an adult bookstore. I think you had told me about one time. What
Yeah,
age was this? Was this
that
around the
was
same time?
yeah, like 2004 to 2006 or 2007, and that was
2000.
my punk rock years, and that's where I got hooked on meth, was in the porn industry actually.
Okay, so that was going on around all that time. Um, exactly. So I know you did work in the porn industry. Exactly what was your role in that industry?
I was a retailer, I was a cashier and a salesman, and I would lock myself into a cage, and people would ask me questions. I'd try and help them out. I was pretty rude and just always intoxicated, and but a lot of people liked it that way, you know. So many people were just embarrassed to be there at all, and so they they didn't mind if I was rude to them or anything.
Anything crazy happen on that job?
Yeah, yeah, there was a sex doll rapist on the loose at one point who would grab like a 150 $200 sex doll and take it into the arcade and rape it and just leave it there. And my company lost a lot of money because of that. Nobody ever stole on my shift. Like there was no theft on my shift, but on other people's shifts it would happen. And I heard the story of We had this dildo called RAMBONE that was probably like this big. It was just gigantic. And one day somebody shoplifted one and took it into the arcade. And the janitor found it, and it was just like covered in shit and blood.
Oh
The
my
guy
God.
crammed it. The guy stole it, crammed it up his ass, and then left it in the arcade.
Damn. So I was going to ask you, did they have, I get, you say arcade, so I guess those are basically like beat off rooms, right?
Yeah.
So, but you didn't have to clean or anything. It didn't sound like you had to deal with any of that kind of crap, because that always sounds like the worst. Janitor at an adult bookstore sounds like the worst job
Yeah, the
of all time.
janitor was the one who got me hooked on meth. And because I tried snorting it and it made me feel gross and I didn't like it, said I'm never doing that again. And then he said, "Oh, you got to try smoking it." And once I took my first hit, I was hooked right off the bat. And another story is one time I took a handful of magic mushrooms before I went to work, and I was just in there tripping balls, and a clown walks out of the arcade, and I just started laughing. I was like, "What are you doing here, clown? You don't belong here!" And just had like the probably the biggest laugh of my life. But it turned out the guy was a transvestite and just had makeup smeared all over his face and was wearing like a colorful dress and would hang out in the arcade. But like, and all the other cashiers were mean to this guy, but I became friends with him because he gave me such a good laugh. Like, I just laughed so hard that night. I liked him from that point on. And then he would buy me, he would give me gift cards and stuff, and he would give me drugs and stuff. And he would tell me, "Hey, if any black guys come in here, send them into my booth." And I'd say, "All right, man, no problem. I can do that." But he was like an engineer who worked for the city and had an awesome career and a wife and kids, got hooked on meth, and then turned into a transvestite who liked to get fucked by black guys, basically.
I know you make your own films, and I think I saw somewhere that you made it an adult film. Is that true?
Um, I made some adult films with a girlfriend I had for a while, but just for my own collection, not released commercially or anything.
Okay, well, let me ask you, when it comes to your asexuality, and you're working in the adult entertainment business,
Yeah.
how are you viewing this material? Did just because you almost seem like you have an interest in it, but not a sexual interest, you know? Was it
Well,
funny to you, or?
I always laugh and tell people I was one of the few people who would fast forward to through the sex scenes to watch the talking scenes.
Yeah.
And I watch pornography and jack off and everything. I just like my mental state, I can't hold a relationship, so I just choose not to have sex with anyone. And I've never been really sexually motivated or anything, you know.
Right. But you did make these pornos. Was that her idea, or is that something you wanted to do?
Probably something I wanted to do, and she was just down to do it. And that was during my meth years, and we both partied on meth a lot.
Okay. So let's get back to, you're working at this bookstore. How did that job come to an end, and where did you go after that?
My roommate really wanted me to quit because he knew that's where I got hooked on meth, and that's where I was scoring meth and everything. And I quit, and I think it just it ended when I left San Diego, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, so when did you start getting into making your own films? I know, I think you've been doing this probably since you were pretty young, but I mean, when you start I mean, I know you're currently making these
Gone by the movies.
feature, yeah, feature length products. I think you call them.
Feature length video products, yeah, because the critics will shit all over me if I call them a movie. So,
Well, when did exactly did your focus turn to this?
like I say, it's something I always wanted to do, and then at some point I inherited some money, and I made, I think 2006, I made my first movie, which was called Punk versus Punk, and it was a documentary about the Southern California punk scene. And you can find that on my punk rock Roku channel, more punk rock Mormo Zine. It's called Punk versus Punk. It's on YouTube, but it's really hard to find on YouTube. And but it's on my Roku channel, and it was like a 45-minute documentary about the Southern California punk rock scene. That was my first one.
Did you get any bands that were notable?
I had JFA is probably the biggest star,
Mm-hmm.
and which is Jodie Foster's Army, and I'm trying to think. I've recorded Battalion of Saints, but they weren't in the documentary. I think JFA was basically the star of Punk versus Punk.
Mm-hmm.
They were
Okay,
a state punk band.
so you start doing these, and are you selling them? I guess the sort of like the zine circuit, maybe. Is that how your mailing order is coming in, or?
I sold them at shows, and like my sales approach was that I was a big fat crazy guy, and like, give me $1 or shit's gonna get crazy, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I sold it back then. One of my partners had was like an artist and an eccentric, and he was selling it for like $10 when I was selling it for $1. But he, like I say, he was an artist and an eccentric and could charge more for it. And then my other partner ended up getting us a distribution deal through a company out of San Francisco. And that got us distributed all over the country. And I think that issue is still in some collections of like libraries and stuff.
I know you're in Branson now. When
Yeah.
when did you move back there, and how does that happen?
You want to take a guess why I moved from
Third breakdown, maybe?
Yeah, and that's a really ugly story. I
Do you
don't
mind getting
want.
into it? Or you don't want to? That's cool. I'm just so curious about like what I mean. You're always just so chill, so I don't know. Like I couldn't imagine like what a nervous breakdown would be like for you. But
Yeah, I stopped taking my medicine, and
oh, so you stopped taking the meds. It sounds like every time you stop taking your meds, this happens, right? Like you have this
yeah, pretty much.
breakdown.
And there was this this young 18-year-old girl, and this I was in this game store, and the guy who ran the game store teased me so hard about it, I just lost my mind and had a nervous breakdown and went crazy and did a bunch of crazy stuff. And
So you ended up. I guess you ended up going to Branson because is that where your mother lives?
no, she still lives in Oregon. I live here
Okay.
alone.
Oh, you moved there for alone. Okay. And
Yeah.
why did you move back to Branson? Was it for any reason? Did you already know people there and stuff? And
I
like,
just, when I left, I just threw a bag of dirty clothes in my car, and I was going to drive cross country to New York. And I would call my mom from the road and stuff. And I ran out of money, and she said, well, why don't you just go to Branson and go to the hospital, and you can see your old friends and stuff. And so I went to Branson and reconnected with some old friends. And then I went to the hospital and ended up in a mental hospital. And when I got out, my mom said she was going to buy a house for me here in Branson. And so I've been here ever since.
Okay, awesome. What's Branson life like?
It's wonderful. I always tell people it's like all the charm of a small town with all the amenities of a big city, because there's really a very small population here, but it's a tourist town, and like 10 million people visit every year or something. And so there's like all kinds of places to eat and entertainment and fun stuff to do, and malls and shopping and all of the retail stores and all of the fast food franchises and food options. I love living here. It's wonderful here.
So you're back in Branson. Do you do anything in the punk rock community there at all, or?
No, there's like no punk rock scene here. There's no punk rock scene in Springfield, which is the nearest big town. I think there's some kind of pop punk cover band show coming up in Springfield, but I'm not even gonna go. And I'm just like too old and fucked up to go to shows, and there's not been a scene here or anything to go to anyway. So
now I'm familiar watching your channel with. Seems like you've partnered up with another streamer, Old Curly Jaws, and you've created I believe it's called Fell House Video.
Yeah, definitely. And we make feature-length video products. Some of them end up on Gumroad, some of them end up on YouTube. But it's a fun little business for me, for sure.
And how long has that been going on? Seems fairly new, like a fairly new endeavor.
It is, I think, only a few months it's been going on, but we make these products really fast. So I already have a pretty good library.
And for those that don't know, they seem to be movies, basically. They seem to be shot where you're getting everything through the web. I'm not going to say it's always a webcam, but for instance, you hire people in Africa to do scenes for you, and then they'll send them to you, and you incorporate it into your movie that you're shooting scenes of yourself that you're putting in there at your desk. It's like basically none of it's like shot on location, I guess. I mean, I guess technically it is in Africa.
Yeah, it's shot on location, in Africa, so
yeah, so it's a really interesting idea. I can see definitely like eventually at some point some top tier Hollywood studio might try to attempt to do a movie that way with big stars just to see, if they could do it. I mean, it seems like it would be a challenging prospect to take on as a filmmaker if you were particularly wanting to stretch the limits of what a film is and what you can do with it and stuff like that. It just seems like a logical, almost like a logical Andy Warhol type progression of the arts.
Yeah, there's been some Hollywood movies that involved like live streaming, and I went and saw one up in Springfield. I think it was called Disturbed or something like that, but it was all shot on an iPhone by like a professional director, professional actors, but all filmed on an iPhone, and it had a theatrical release. But my technique was basically born out of desperation. I have this dream of making movies, but I was too fucked up to go anywhere in Hollywood or anything, and so I'm just doing the best I can to make my dreams come true, and just doing whatever it takes to actually be in the movie business and making money, making movies and stuff.
About how many movies have you made this way?
I'm not, I don't even know the count, but I'm guessing probably about 80.
Okay. And when you say a feature length, what is that?
Over 40 minutes.
Over 40 minutes? Okay, cool. And what's
Yeah.
your longest film? Are they all around 40 minutes, or do you have like do they vary?
My most successful film was close to 2 hours. I think it's a 2 hour movie. And that's called Baker City Prospecting. And it's a movie about rock hunting and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And it has 1.5 million views on YouTube and made me over $2,000. And that's what blew up my channel. That's where all my subscribers came from, was from my hit movie.
Did you have a interest in prospecting, or is that just something you just took on?
A friend of mine introduced me to a friend of his, and he said, this guy's really smart about prospecting, and you should make a movie and you should do video with him. And so initially we were going to do a TV show, and then at the end of the project he said, just do whatever you want with it. And my dream was always to make a movie, so I just made a feature-length movie about it. And the guy who made the movie thought he was going to die. He thought like he had terminal illness, and he wanted to document all of his knowledge about prospecting before he died so that he could leave a record of all that knowledge. And then he ended up being fine, and he's alive to this day, and we talk a couple times a year still.
Okay. Outside that one, I mean, I know I'm a fan of the Mormo Goes to Africa series.
Yeah.
Do you think, is that one of your more popular ones? Like, what outside the prospecting one? I mean, it sounds like that one is like way up there, right? There's probably a fall off there for your second one.
Yeah, that's like my one hit wonder, and then it's all downhill from there. But Mormo in Africa series is pretty well regarded. People like it, my fans like it, and the old Curly Jaws in Africa didn't do nearly as well as the ones that just starred me, but people like them. And now what happens is that I make a feature, and then like 100 people watch it. It earns $1, and then it's just forgotten about and just sits there doing nothing.
Mm. But you do sell them on this Gumroad?
Yeah, I have a Gumroad store, and I sell my movies there. I just put out one last night, actually, and got 2 sales already.
Okay. And what format do you put those out in?
I render them in 720p, and on Gumroad you can stream through Gumroad, or you can download it. Either way.
Okay. All right, but you don't actually make physical copies at all?
I've made a few physical copies, but I hate shipping and I hate going to the post office, so I'm not real motivated to do DVD anymore. And physical media is kind of dying anyway. And
So I notice right now you are selling art cards. Is that? And it seems like you sell quite a few. When did that
yeah,
start?
that just goes back to my love of art, and I'm trying to find a good art card for you. Here's my 2 art cards that I put prints on.
Okay.
And I made prints, and I'm selling the prints now for real cheap. But it was like a large percentage of my movie output is based off of something called PLR. Have you ever heard of that?
No.
It stands for private label rights, and it's where you can buy content and then you can rebrand it and then sell it as your own. You can buy the rights to content and then rebrand it and sell it as your own. And so I buy like text, written word, or I buy videos and then host them like a horror host, you know, but they'll be like about make money online instead of about horror, like crappy old horror movies in the public domain or whatever. It'll be like make money online training with me hosting and giving my feedback and stuff. So I bought the PLR rights to some text, some articles and stuff, some emails. And one of the things I read about was art cards. And he was saying you could make money by buying them cheap on eBay and holding on to them for a while and then listing them again on eBay at a higher price. And he was saying there was like a whole market out there of people who collect these art cards and stuff. And so I took that and got to thinking, I was like, well, I'm a decent artist. I could create my own cards and sell them. And so I tried them and they sold right away. And there's pretty much more demand than there is product, because I could only do one art card a night. And so they sell fairly quick. I just sold my last of the last series I did tonight, actually. But now I got the prints and I can sell them pretty cheap. I'm selling the 2 prints for $5 through PayPal. And then I just mail them out. But yeah, I learned it from PLR that I bought to make a video product. And that's why I love my business, is because I educate myself and then have something I can sell, asset I can sell when I'm done. So I buy these training materials and then consume them and repackage them and rebrand them and then sell them. So I'm like learning while I'm making money, which is something I love about my business.
Okay, so I noticed your current series is animals. And I know you've done like a true crime, I believe, before.
Yeah, I call them crime fantasy, but they were crime themed.
Okay, what other kind of themes have you done, or is that it?
The first like 12 cards were horror themed, and those are all long sold. And I took pictures with my phone, but I never scanned the cards, any of the horror ones or any of the crime fantasy ones. And so I could have made prints if I would have known. I just found out about what a great deal it is making prints and how I can get prints made locally and stuff. That's a new thing for my business. But the first cards I did were like horror themed, and they're all based off of the public domain. They're not, I don't trace or copy, but they're all like my interpretation of public domain existing artwork, basically. It's the Disney model. It's like how Disney made all their money, is by exploiting the public domain, you know?
So you're a filmmaker, and I would like to know who are some of your favorite filmmakers, and as well as films?
Boy, that's a tough one. Probably my favorite film is Dawn of the Dead 78, and that's just because I watched it with my father. I mostly watch trauma movies these days, and I like indie, low budget, no budget filmmakers. And the majority of stuff I watch is just trauma movies. And then I watch them and review them. And then I become friends with the filmmaker and interact with the filmmaker. Because like I can go to the theater and see a Hollywood movie and make a review, and it's like nobody even cares, you know, nobody cares what I think. But if I review a low budget or no budget movie, then like the people who made that appreciate that I took the time to watch it, and then I took the time to review it, and then they reach out and we connect and network and stuff. And so the majority of stuff, like growing up, I liked Kubrick and Tarantino and all that, and David Lynch and all that. But all the directors I liked when I was in high school, now I don't like them, and I only like independent, no budget, low budget movie directors nowadays, basically.
Okay. Are you watching? I'm really into the boutique labels. Or do you? Are you familiar with any of those?
I don't collect physical media, so
Oh, you don't.
no.
So, what are your plans for the future, Mormo?
I'm in the process of trying to sell some of my video products to streaming, and I've been approaching distributors and stuff, trying to get them interested in my movies and stuff. But and you know, I already got a Roku channel, but I want to get on like Tubi or one of the bigger channels. And so, but I'm not really a tech genius or anything. So as far as all the tech specifications and all the paperwork and everything, I'd really like to partner with somebody who can take my products and buy them for like a small amount, and then remake them, rebrand them basically to like the correct technical specifications and everything, and get them distribution. And I'm not really looking to make a lot of money off of my video products. I just want to reach an audience. I figure like it's, even if somebody else makes money off of my products, it's only going to help me to reach a larger audience. And I want to reach people through the TV screen rather than the cell phone and the laptop. Like people who watch you on TV, it's a whole nother connection, a whole another level of connection. And so like, I'm really hoping that the future for my movie business is that I get distribution and get on some big streaming networks, and then like be able to network from there, and maybe that'll lead into another job, or I could build my email list and get investors to invest in bigger projects and stuff. I'm just really focused on growing an audience right now.
All right. Well, Mormo, I want to thank you for joining me today on Grady TV.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.